But they can tie you up in court, and what they normally do is they wait till you're going to go public. The day before you're going to go public, or the week before you're going to go public, or the week before you're going to sell to an industry giant, then they step in, their lawyers serve you and say, all that business that you stole, tortiously interfering with our business, really belongs to the old company. And they hold you up. And you got to pay them off $1 million, $5 million, depending on how big the deal is. And normally what you do is you cut it, if they're right and they got you by the balls, then you cut a deal and say, okay, we'll pay you $5 million out of the proceeds of the public offering. Or you got to go back with your hat in your hand on your knees to the industry giant that's buying you and say, I hate to tell you this, but we got a new shareholder and he wants $25 million, but I think we can buy him off for $5 or $10 million. And of course, you've lost all credibility with the guy that just bought you. They think that you're, also ran second-tier, rookie, which you are. And but if the deal is still sweet enough, they'll add $5 or $10 million to the purchase price and allow you to buy it out. But you can do that. I don't like that way, because they're going to step up as soon as you're going to want to sell or go public, and they're going to stick you up. I rather let them have 2%. And after 3 or 4 or 5 years of them getting nothing, and the way they get money is if you pay a dividend. Now, if you're stupid enough to pay a fucking dividend when you got hostile shareholders, you deserve to lose control. You don't pay a dividend. Your cash distributions are bonuses. Remember, I told you the board of directors are getting bonuses upon successful transactions, success fees on transactions, not dividends. Because dividends have to go through all shareholders, even the dissident ones. But you can do that. You can do that. Did I answer that? Yes, ma'am.
So when you're first getting the...
Is this a Torrance question?
Yes. If they all say yes, what do you do with the one? After you pick one, what do you do with the rest?
You're talking about filling the positions on the board level?
Yes.
Okay, so you mean you've got, if the first board guy you go to and you like and he says yes, even though you've got 3 more on the boil, so to speak, then you might turn 2 of them into industry experts. One of them might be an accountant. So, you fill the other slots. But you might, if only they're qualified, normally if they're qualified to be chairman, they're qualified to be something else. They're qualified to be the industry expert, transaction lawyer, so you won't have that problem. But you can never have enough good people on your board. You can never have enough good people on your bus. I'm telling you. Don't be worried about being diluted. Right now, with 1 or 2 exceptions in this room, you don't have fuck all. With 1 or 2 exceptions on the YouTube, you got to fuck all. So don't be fighting over pennies. When we're talking about tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. Don't worry about it. And I've taken boards, half of a board, spin it off, formed a new company, and did a new roll-up. There's a lot of different ways to skin that hog. Yes, sir.
If I don't want to pay hostile shareholders dividends, that's okay when the company is still private.
Yes, sir.
A public company, I want to get the track.
Okay, yeah. You're right. If you've got a public company, you got to pay these assholes dividends. When you take a dividend, pay a dividend, and if you want to build up a track record,
reduce my stock price.
Exactly. Well, then you got to get rid of those guys before you go public. You got to get.
The history of dividends starts from the day I go public.
No, yeah, you're right. You can pay dividends non-public, but you don't.
But then I'm looking what I did when I was private.
No. Yes, sir.
Sorry, I'm struggling to understand the role of...
Really? That's hard for me to believe, Walter. Can you believe it's hard? Go ahead.
The role of a CFO. He sounds basically like...
a finance director.
Yeah, he sounds basically like...
In this country, it'd be a finance director. In this country, normally the CEO means managing director. In this country, operations director is the chief operating officer. But go ahead.
He basically sounds like a lawyer to me, or transaction lawyer.
He can. It depends. But see, now, this is coming from the son of a lawyer. Okay? But I would rather have, again, you're worried about Even if not on a conscious level, on a subconscious level, you're worried about giving this shit away free. It's contrary to our human nature. Trying to get Dutchmen to do this, for those of you that are listening, I mean, it's not impossible, but it's next to impossible. Because the Dutch don't believe in anything for free. They're not the only ones, but, you know. Don't worry about the 2% or the 1% or the 5%. Remember, I mean, you're starting this with nothing. Don't worry. I mean, don't. And I know that's outside your comfort zone. It's outside a lot of people's comfort zone. Some of the chairmen will tell you they're on board. Pull up the gangplank. We don't need to give any more equity out. They'll tell you because they're thinking old school, conventional wisdom. And I'll tell you, and you'll write in your report. But Mr. So-and-so, my chairman, said, and I'll say, well, fuck him. I mean, you know, If I had to come to a 25-year-old to get rich, I'd blow my fucking brains out. Now, you won't say that. I don't want you to say that. But here's a 61-year-old guy that doesn't have a fucking pot to piss in, or a window to throw it out, and he's telling you to go on the cheap with the other directors. How well has his plan worked for 40 fucking years? It hasn't. Now, as you get, you know, that's how Trump would answer, or I would answer, but I don't want you to do that. But be thinking that. I mean, these guys are crazy. And then that's when your leadership steps in. You got to step up and you got to push them back in line. And pushing a guy with 40 years experience isn't easy. Not impossible either. And once in a while, the chairman will say, fuck you, kid, I'm out of here. And he'll resign. Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out, fuckface. I'm not suggesting you say that. That's just an example for YouTube. But I have been known to say shit like that. And that's why in the financial world, they either love me or hate me. They love me if we made money together. They hate me. All the rest hate me. Because I treat everybody the same. Like shit. Like they should have rolled down the inside of their mama's leg. Hear that, YouTube? I just found out, you know what this is called? It's called the Rockefeller Salute. Governor Rockefeller of New York, in the 40s or 50s, the Rockefeller Salute. Give him the Rockefeller Salute. Okay, did I answer that question?
Yeah.
Any other? Come on, Walter. Okay, so now you've got your chairman, your CFO, the same drill for the transaction lawyer and the accountants. They'll be easier because once they see you got a CFO and a world-class chairman, they fall into line, and the process, it all goes quicker. Some of those guys, I tell you to meet them in person. Some of the guys, oh, I know you're busy, just count me in, and they won't meet you in person. So now we've got the board. So now you've got a lot of experience, or not a lot, you've got a lot more experience because you made a lot of presentations. So now you're focusing on the accountants. Why do you do the accountants first instead of the lawyers? My experience of 25 years, the accountants are easier to bring in on the outside team. They're still part of your dream team, but they're not part of your board of directors. You start with the smaller firms, 10, 15, 18 largest in the world, or in the UK or the United States. And again, we have templates, we have all this stuff, and you make the presentations, and they will see the chairman. They'll see the former, even though you're talking to KPMG, they'll see the former PwC 40-year partner. They'll see all that, and that all counts. Perception is reality. And you'll say that, you know, you obviously do business with the private equity firms. We use the same model. The same model as we roll unsuccessful fees into the next deal till we have a successful transaction. And you're just saying, I just took a shit this morning, just rolled off, that's it. It's not stutter, spit. Yes, sir.
So to get in contact with those outside lawyers and accountants, would it be okay to reach out to them through LinkedIn?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So now, and then you say we're interviewing, and they'll ask you who you're talking to. And you're talking to all, and you can see the top 10. The top 10 accountants. And then one will say, well, we have to take this under advisement. The most important person in your law firm and in your accounting firm is the engagement partner, the person that signs the document for your deal. And when they say that they have to take it under advisement, that's sometimes true, mostly not true. What they really want to see is to bounce it off a couple of their other partners. Because most big firms, you have to have 2 partner signatures. 2. You'll have an engagement partner, but you'll have a backup. And so he'll do the courtesy of saying, okay, you're going to be my backup on this deal, so is the late fees okay with you? And he'll say yes, and so then he'll sign off. Because when the primary engagement partner is not around, you need somebody. You don't hear me go on holiday. You may have a fucking heart attack. God knows what happened. So so he'll, out of courtesy, he'll ask the backup partner if it's okay with him. And so now, accountants, lawyers. Now the law firm will say, "Oh God, you've got KPMG or you've got BDO." You've got all these people, they'll still interview. They'll give you more of the benefit of the doubt. So by the time you get down to the lawyers, I mean, you're pretty well poised. Now, at the same time, with the end of the accounts, the beginning of the lawyers, you start to warm up banks, which I'm going to cover tomorrow in detail. You warm up the banks, not with a deal, but are they and we have scripts for that too. Are you in a lending mode for healthcare? Are you in a lending mode for IT? Now, you've looked at the Wall Street Journal, you've looked at the Financial Times, and you see ABC Bank, Deutsche Bank, etc., just did a $7 billion IT deal. So you know they're in the lending mode, but you ask them anyway. So you're warming up the banks, not with a deal, but you want the general lending parameters. Are you doing deals at 3 times EBITDA, 4 times EBITDA, 7 times EBITDA? And then they'll say, well, we can't really give you a definitive answer until we see the numbers. Well, I mean, just in general. And you go and meet them. And they will put you with a development officer, but you want a guy or a gal that's in healthcare. Ideally, in healthcare, they just did that big deal you read about on the Wall Street Journal. And they will say, 3 to 5. Now, you're thinking 3, they're thinking, they're thinking 3, you're thinking 5. But you use that 3 to 5 arbitrage, that spread that they're lending against, when you go to the sellers, the motivated seller, and you don't fuck around. You get cut right to the chase, and and they'll say, well, what do you have in mind? Now, some of the kids say, have you ever thought about, divesting yourself of your assets? Now, that's a fancy way. Have you ever thought about selling? And they'll say, no, but if I was, what are we talking about? And that's when you pop out 3 to 5 times EBITDA, and they won't know what that means sometimes. And you'll say 3 to 5 times free cash flow. And they may or may not understand that. And so then they lock in on the 5 times cash flow. You really only want to pay the 3 times cash flow, okay? And of course, now we're not to the offers yet. We talk about that in a couple of days. But every offer you make is subject to due diligence and finance. So you're not promising them dick. Subject to, exactly. And I've never seen the sales price in almost 50 years go up after due diligence. Due diligence is a metaphor to knock the shit out of the price. This isn't an asset. This isn't this. This isn't, you drive the price. What do you mean 5 million? I've had deals where they wanted 12 million, they wound up paying me 9 million. They asking 12, they paid me 9 to take the asset. To subject to due diligence, we said, well, this law is changing. Small refiners' bias is changing in 19 months, and it's not worth anything. It's not worth anything. So now you've got the parameters from the bank. So you're doing that while you're seeing the lawyers at the end. And as the accountants and going to the lawyers, you're asking them for referrals for financial institutions. Okay? And they will feel comfortable based on the board that's already been put together. And and they will try to shove you The accountants also have lawyers now. KPMG has law firms. You don't want the law firm and the accountants to be together, because there is no such thing as a Chinese wall. I'm not going to go into a Chinese wall, but there's supposed to be separation where the accountants don't talk to the lawyers, or I can be on an investment banking deal at Citibank on the 11th floor, and I don't talk to the guys on the 9th floor. That is horse shit. That is horse shit. And so then when you go to the banks that are being referred from your board members, from your accountants, from your lawyers, now money's no problem. You should have 10, 15 or more financial institutions, but they're always going to try to drive you towards equity, because that's the normal model. Equity meaning you're diluted. A private equity firm that's going to come in and put up all the money needs you like they need AIDS. Because not only do you not add value, your board doesn't add as much value because they have their own boards on the private equity firm. They can replace you in a heartbeat. Yet, one of you or two of you or five of you are going to tell me that you got a guy who knows a brother who blah, 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 in private equity. That you went to, well, none of you guys went to Cambridge or Harvard, but anyway, they went to that. And even though it seems easier because you think you know the guy, it isn't. It isn't. Because the strength of the model is the foundation that's strong, and then you can weather storms. When you know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy, you've got no foundation. You've got no foundation. And you want that relationship based on your shoulders, on the shoulders of titans. Okay? Your board titans, and then little you standing there at the end. And so then you've warmed up the banks, so then you go back and you finish up the lawyers. And now you know what the parameters are, and so now then you look for motivated sellers. And I say, and I'm famous, and this sounds awful, you want the husband and wife, mom and pop, 57 to 65. You want him to have had a stroke, he's in a wheelchair, and his wife's spitting up blood from emphysema. That's a perfect motivated seller. And then you're going to help them out. Plus, you're going to help them with a little tax planning, which we'll talk about later. A little tax planning. Because they have no succession. Their kids wouldn't piss on them if their faces were on fire. That's not your fault that there's no succession. So don't go getting fucking Pedro guilt about it. That's not your fault. It's because their parents who fucked up the same story. 85% of all businesses, 95% of all businesses that go up for sale in a calendar year do not sell. I'm going to say that again slow for Pedro. 95% of all businesses that go up for sale, business broker or not, do not sell. Why? Because they're trying to get rich off one motherfucking transaction. They're trying to get wealthy off one transaction. Wealth is built off a series of transactions. And because they fucked their whole life up for 45 fucking years, they want to get wealthy off one time. And that doesn't work. And their kids have kicked him to the curb, don't want to have anything to do with him. And now they've had a stroke from stress, and the woman's mother spitting up blood from stress. I don't know. Can you get emphysema from stress? No? Okay, well, she got emphysema from... Okay. So you're helping them out. So Pedro, you can be a good Samaritan. You can help them out. And you are helping them out. That's the irony of all this shit. Because these fucking morons are someday... They're going to die in the street, and the state's going to take their business. Because they probably are dying intestate with no fucking will. And then the state's going to take them, and the fucking cockroaches are going to eat their eyes out. Thank you, you two. I love this job,